legend of the beast goes back a long time. For any of us could even pick up a baseball. Back to a place called Myrtle's Acres. It all started about 20 years ago.
Hold on there, Squints. I think you're talking about a different legend than I am. I'm talking about the legend of the beast, but this is the beast that I mean, in Cincinnati, Ohio. In this episode, we're going to go take a close look at one of the biggest legends in coaster history. In order to fully understand the legend of the beast, we actually have to go back a little bit further to before Kings Island even existed. Coney Island Amusement Park in Cincinnati, Ohio, was a park next to the Ohio River and started in 1886. This was a very popular park for the locals of Cincinnati and gave some pretty exciting rides, as especially the Shooting Star roller coaster was quite popular and highly regarded among the general public and coaster enthusiasts. Unfortunately, Coney Island also had a major problem. Being right next to the Ohio River, this area was also prone to flooding. Because of this ongoing issue, 364 acres were purchased near Mason, Ohio, and this area was built to the park we all know and love, Kings Island. Many of the rides from Coney Island were relocated to Kings Island, but unfortunately the roller coasters themselves were demolished. This billboard could be seen at Coney Island in 1971, advertising the racer for the following year as the longest, fastest, and highest roller coaster ever built. Although that status was short-lived, the racer does continue to thrill riders to this day, and is still quite a popular attraction at Kings Island, and one of my personal favorites. This coaster is credited for starting the second golden age of the roller coaster, and because of this, parks kept continuing to build taller, faster, steeper, longer, and more intense roller coasters. It was time again for Kings Island to consider adding another signature attraction. Many options were explored for what Kings Island could add that would pay homage to their original roots of Coney Island, especially since that park never ended up actually closing. Among these discussions was a recreation of the Coney Island Wildcat, a long-gone attraction that was very popular. And while this idea did not come to fruition, they did go on to build a recreation of it at Kings Island's sister park, Kings Dominion, in Doswell, Virginia. You can ride that attraction today under the name Grizzly. And it should be noted this ride is currently in my top 10. Ultimately, it was decided to go with a design unique to the park and utilize some of the terrain located in the back portion in the woods. However, they never completely forgot the Shooting Star, which was known for its amazing airtime and also especially its enclosed helix finale. The helix of this ride would eventually inspire the Beast's double helix, which many say is the best portion of the Beast. Before we move on from the Shooting Star, here is one last shot of the lift and the enclosed helix finale that would later go on to inspire the Beast's double helix ending. One of the unique things about the Beast is that it was designed and built in-house by the park. Its designers were Al Collins and Jeff Gramke of Kings Island, with some of the formulas being provided by writing them on a napkin in the International Restaurant by the late great John Allen of PTC. Its construction supervisor was Charlie Dinn, and many of the construction workers referred to this as a beast of a project, which is no big surprise there, as the Beast covers 35 acres of rough, rugged, heavily wooded terrain. Public Relations Director Ruth Voss heard them describing the project this way and submitted the idea that this ride be known as the Beast, which opened on Friday, April 13, 1979, as the biggest, baddest, longest, fastest roller coaster in the world.
Kings Island dares you to come face to face with 2,400 feet of unrestrained terror. In a 70-mile-per-hour attack on your senses, the Beast throws you screaming through 3 tunnels, takes you higher than any other coaster. Come face to face with the Beast. The Beast. The biggest, baddest, longest, fastest coaster in the world.
The biggest, baddest, longest, fastest coaster in the world. The Beast is running wild in Cincinnati. You'll find it at Kings Island. But the Beast is only the beginning. You're just a short drive away from America's top-ranked seasonal theme park. So this summer, track down the Beast and discover all the reasons why you should stop and share the good times at Kings Island, 20 miles north of Cincinnati on I-71.
And that is how the legend of the Beast all began. And what you're looking at right now is some B-roll footage shot by the park in 1999. What I'd like to do for the rest of this video is completely explore the ride, the inner mechanics of how it all works, and a few legends and changes and other odds and ends. One thing that's important to mention, however, is that any on-ride footage is not mine and was taken with the permission of the park. Any behind-the-scenes photos were either taken at behind-the-scenes tours provided by the park or from the period of time that I worked there, and were taken with the permission and escort of a supervisor. Do not attempt to take any of these pictures and videos yourself. As we begin our tour of the world's longest wooden roller coaster, I feel it's important to start by saying the entrance and the lines are actually really special to me, simply because that's where I've met so many wonderful friends and acquaintances, and also where I've spent a lot of quality time with family members. And I think it's really amazing how much time you get to spend with others and experiences that you share because of a shared hobby. Even occasionally you might meet your future wife or husband. Who knows? The entrance plaza to the Beast itself has been a meeting place of mine for a long time and is actually a little bit of a sore spot with me, as until 2008 it looked like this. It was very green, very pretty, full of trees, and very nicely landscaped. But unfortunately, when Diamondback opened in 2009, they decided to reroute the entrance, and so by the end of the 2008 season, this is what became of the trees. Tree conservation has not exactly been a big thing for the park lately. The entrance to the ride and the queue line have had a few minor changes to it recently too, as anyone that has ridden it within the last couple of years will notice by these pictures. However, for the most part, it still has the same classic feel, same traditional style, and unfortunately, you will wait in this if you go on the wrong day, as the Beast does tend to develop lines, especially in the summer. To avoid the wait, do not go on a Saturday, opt for a weekday instead, or buy a fast lane. Once you're finally in the station, anticipation builds as you wait for the train to slowly come in. Train 2's a-comin'. These trains actually have undergone many changes over the years too, including a conversion from the restraints from the good old single position lap bars, affectionately known as buzz bars, to the new ratcheting style lap bars, as well as receiving seat belts in 2004. The trains have also had seat dividers and headrests installed, among other many minor things, but none so major as the conversion from 3-bench trains to 4-bench trains. Let me explain that a little more thoroughly. Back then, the Beast had 5 cars per train, holding a total of 40 riders. Now, however, the trains have been modified so that there are only 3 rows per car, which is less strenuous on the track, and has 6 cars for a total of 36 riders per train. The only evidence you can still find of this change is the fact that in the station it is very clearly still set up for 4-bench trains, and so there are some cars, particularly Car 4, that don't quite line up with the gates. In this commercial that I showed you a little while ago from the 80s, You can inspect the trains and see, if you look closely, the old-style buzz bars instead of the ratcheting lap bars. And if you look carefully when they show up close the picture of the trains, you can see that there are 4 rows for every car on the train. As you roll to the left at the beginning of your ride, you will actually pass by this small shed that's used to store the trains at nighttime. At the end of the night, the associates will take the trains off, store them here, and then push them back onto the track at the beginning of each day. The Beast and Woodstock Express are the only 2 coasters in the park that this is done by the rides department. All of the rest of the coasters, maintenance completes this task. Once you pass the side track, you almost immediately engage onto the first lift hill. This lift hill is 110 feet and will on many occasions take quite a considerable amount of time to climb. If your train was quickly dispatched, as hopefully it was, the lift will be very slow to pull you up, as the coaster train cannot be allowed to crest the first lift until the previous train has crested over the second lift. This is for safety reasons so that no 2 trains can be in the same section of track at a time, a process called blocking. The section of track between the station and the top of the first lift is the first of 6 blocks on the Beast, 5 of which are used, and testing these blocks to make sure the computer is operating properly is part of daily testing procedures every morning. What I have shown you so far is pretty much all that you can see of the Beast, even from the Eiffel Tower, as most of the ride is hidden away in the woods in the back, and that's what we're going to explore in the rest of the episode. Even as you go up the first lift, you are actually starting to go off into the back of the woods. It's also worth mentioning that you really get to understand just how massive the structure is by walking underneath the first monstrous lift. It's also worth mentioning that 70% of this structure is still the original wood from when it was opened first in 1979. You can start to see some of the terrain as you walk back, and here is a close-up of the first tunnel that you drop into. As a fun look back, this is a picture of what that same tunnel looked like in 1978 when the Beast was first under construction. The woman in the picture is a friend of mine by the name of Trackwalker's mother, who was walking the nature trail when this was taken. The use of this first of 3 underground tunnels on the Beast makes it possible for the lift, which is only 110 feet tall, to deliver a total descent of 135 feet. The angle of descent on the first drop is 45 degrees. As we used to like to say at the Beast over the microphone, that's either halfway straight down or halfway flat, however you want to look at it. And contrary to popular belief, the bottom of the first drop is not where it hits the top speed on the ride. It is, however, where it hits the first of a series of 4 trim brakes to slow the train down just a little bit throughout the course of the ride. And unlike what many people believe, the first drop has always been trimmed. It used to have skid brakes up until the conversion in 2001, and I have seen a video one time indicating that for the first year of the conversion, the first drop did run trimless. But it didn't last for long, unfortunately. After going through the first of 3 underground tunnels on the ride at the bottom of the first drop, the train races around and goes up and over another hill where it is slowed by yet another set of trim brakes, taking out any potential for airtime on this hill. As I have often said, without the trim brakes on this hill and on the first drop, I think the Beast would have a very good shot at being in my top 10 favorite wooden coasters. After going up and over this second hill, you are dropped into a ravine, continuing the cycle of getting lower and lower as you go throughout the ride. This ravine down inside is affectionately known as Sycamore Hollow because of all the sycamore trees that you can find on either side. This is among my favorite parts of the ride simply because it is heavily wooded and therefore very dark at night and very peaceful in the summer. As the train exits Sycamore Hollow, it goes back up dramatically, and I don't think it's as evident from the ride just how high up you are as you make this right turn into the brake shed. Thankfully, this turn is a lot smoother than it used to be as it's been redone in recent years. But simply walking under the brake shed, you realize just exactly how high off the ground you are, how long and how massive this structure is. This brake shed was originally intended to be a block brake so that the Beast could run 4 trains. However, this idea did not come to fruition, and now the Beast has at maximum 3 trains, and this is not used as a block. It is, however, unfortunately used as a trim brake, taking off quite a bit of speed as you go through the ride, especially early in the morning or with the majority of the train being empty. You will definitely notice a big difference. Full trains, especially later in the evening, will tend to run a lot faster as they have a lot more momentum to fly through this trim. The magnets are always on, and they can't be adjusted without actually taking a wrench to it. Therefore, the weight of the trains does make an extreme difference. As you can see from the photos, after exiting the brake shed, the train continues to go downward into a valley again, and it's at this point that I have one of my favorite photos. I really love how the train pops in this picture, and I am saddened that most people don't get that vantage point. You then enter the second and third underground tunnel present on the Beast. After its first season, it was decided to connect these 2 tunnels to make one long tunnel, which is now often referred to as the Graveyard Tunnel. After exiting the Graveyard Tunnel, you enter into what, if anything, could be considered the Beast's turnaround. At this point, you are as far out in the woods as you can get before you start coming back. It's a series of 3 curves and a hill, and it continues to drop in elevation until you get to the lowest point of the ride, which is about 200 feet below the top of the first lift. Quite an elevation change, which is why it picks up so much speed. This fastest point on the ride also has a nickname and is usually referred to as Quick Dip. After going that far down in the valley, you then have to come back out, and the Beast quickly ascends a very tall hill leading up to the second lift, which actually starts down quite a bit of a hill. So walking back up this stretch of gravel road is a challenge in itself. Just be thankful that you get to ride back up that stretch of hill instead of having to walk all the way back up. Speaking of having to walk back to the station, in the event of a Lift 2 evacuation, there are several sets of evacuation stairs. In this photo, you can see the first of those evacuation stairs. Those of us that know the Beast really well can judge how fast or slow the train was moving by which section of the train catches next to these stairs. You know it's a really fast ride when at least the third car gets past this first set of stairs. Underneath Lift 2, you can see part of the chain return laying actually on the ground because that's how low it has to go. And you can see part of the mechanisms that allow the Beast to pull you back up the second lift. This photo of the base of Lift 2 beautifully shows the only crossover present on the Beast. As you ascend Lift 2, you go over top of the hill, going over into Sycamore Hollow. After arriving at the top of this massive structure for Lift 2, you have a little bit of time to admire some of the park in front of you before making this gradual turn into the longest drop on the Beast at 141 feet, and goes down into the Beast's signature double helix finale at an 18-degree angle. Many people like this part of the ride the best, not only because you gradually start going faster and faster and faster, but because the Beast's double helix ending is a very aggressive portion of the ride. It's also the part of the ride that was inspired by the Coney Island Shooting Star. This tunnel, although originally intended, was not added until the Beast's second season. I definitely think with the tunnel was a very good choice. Without the tunnel just doesn't seem to be as much fun. This is also one of the sections of the ride that is a lot of fun at night, especially later on in the season, or even sometimes at the beginning of the season, when either one or two of the 5 sections of magnetic trim brakes are removed from this drop into the helix, leading to some pretty fantastic rides later on in the evenings. You also don't realize, while you're on the ride, just how far down into the valley the Beast goes in its double helix. This is a very massive structure, and that is one big hill that you have to walk down to get into the helix, and definitely one big hill that you have to walk up to get out of the helix. At this point, you just have one more turn and a dip, and if you're even lucky, you'll get to wave at the other train as it goes past on your way back to the station, secretly hoping that no one will be in your row, and you can do this whole process all over again, depending, of course, on the re-ride policy this year. It used to be you could get several rides in the morning before the crowds got there, but that has kind of been taken away in the last couple years. Here is my favorite photo of myself from the period of time that I worked there. This was in 2009, but I also worked there during the 2011 season as well. And while I'm showing off, this is a plaque from my coaster club, the American Coaster Enthusiasts, designating the Beast as a landmark roller coaster, although it does have one piece of inaccurate information, as it lists the ride at a little over 3 minutes. Especially these days, the ride is roughly 4 minutes and 50 seconds in length. After all these years, it still holds the title as the world's longest wooden roller coaster at 7,359 feet and covers a total of 35 acres. Let's take a ride. Now that we've taken a ride in the daytime, what you'll have to do is to go to Kings Island sometime and experience this ride at night. That is when the Beast really shines and when it really comes alive. And don't just take my word for it either. Ask anyone you want, they'll all tell you this.
When is the best time to ride the Beast?
Night.
So just what is it that we love so much about this ride? Let's find out.
I absolutely love the Beast at Kings Island. The just over 4-minute ride is full of non-stop fun. It features a good amount of banked turns, tunnels, and its final helix is partially enclosed, which is pretty cool. The Beast speeds through the Rivertown woods at about 65 miles per hour, and what a journey it takes you through those woods. My advice would be to ride the Beast at any time possible, but would have to say that the night rides on the Beast are probably the best. The thrills are huge after dark. Imagine riding through the woods and in and out of tunnels while it's pitch black. Now, I would even say riding after a giant rainstorm is quite fun too. Riders can often see wild animals alongside the tracks, including wild turkeys and deer, which are just an added bonus. Again, I really like this coaster, and I hope that many of you get a chance to ride it and enjoy it as much as I do.
So there you have it. All of these reasons and more that the Beast continues to live on as one of Kings Island's signature attractions and continuously one of the longest waits in the park. Hopefully one day very soon, you too will get to experience this legend for yourself. Enjoy the ride. I hope you enjoyed watching this video of the Beast as much as I enjoyed making it. I personally can't wait for another week and a half until Kings Island opens for 2016 and I can go ride the Beast once again. Until next time, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to stay tuned for more exciting adventures from 2016. Thank you for watching, and as always, dare to fly.